Hey everybody, welcome to Chapter 2, Section 7. Title is Solving Proportions, begins on page 124. Start with a definition. A proportion is made up of two fractions with an equal sign in between them. That in a second. In order to solve proportions, we're going to use what's called the cross products property. Cross, because we're going to have something cross in the middle. Products, because we are multiplying. So, here's what the cross products property says. If I have this proportion, A over B equals C over D. See how I've got two fractions, an equal sign in the middle. The entire key to cross products is that you're going to multiply diagonally. Okay? So here's what that would look like. That if I multiply the A and the D, those are diagonal. Okay, one on top, one on bottom. I get A times D. If I multiply the B and the C, those are diagonal. And I get B times C. The equal sign was in the middle of the problem, so it stays in the middle in my next step. And then we do some more stuff after that, but this is what the cross products property says. Just make sure that you multiply diagonally. It'll make more sense once we put some numbers in there. There is an example number 1 in this section, but we're not going to go through it, so we're just going to skip ahead to example 2. It says, what is the solution of this proportion? So we've got 5 over 9 equals 15 over x. Again, the key is multiplying diagonally. So we're going to multiply diagonally and do 5 times x and get 5x. We're going to multiply diagonally. We're going to do 9 times 15. The equal sign is going to stay in the middle. See how we get two lines crossing in the middle? That's why it's called cross products. So if we multiply this, we get that 5x equals 135. Now, from here, it's an example of a one-step problem, just like we did in the first half of Chapter 2, okay, that we already took the test on. So from here, I ask myself those same questions. What's my variable, x? What's being done to it? It's being multiplied by 5, so I need to do the inverse, which is divide by 5. Multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5 are inverses, so they cancel. And I get x equals 27. Okay? So I multiplied diagonally, multiplied out the 9 times the 15, did inverses to both sides, and I got my answer, x equals 27. Okay? They can do a few things with this cross products property. In this problem, we're still going to use cross products, but we're also going to have to use distributive property. Because if I look here, I'm going to have to multiply the 7 times the whole thing, x plus 2. So 7 times the whole thing, x plus 2, and that makes it look like distributive property. And we'll get to that in a second. If I multiply the other two diagonally, 5 times the whole thing, 2x minus 11. Again, I've got a distributive property. So from there, I'm going to do the same stuff we did in the first half of the chapter. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 2 is 14. On the other side, 5 times 2 gives me 10x. 5 times negative 11 gives me negative 55. I have variables on both sides. I don't like that. I want to get rid of the one that has the smaller number. 7 is smaller than 10, so I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides. These inverses cancel. 10 minus 7x is 3x. Okay, x is my variable. It's being multiplied by 3 and subtracted by 55. I need to get rid of the 55 first, so instead of subtracting by 55, the inverse is adding 55. Since we've already done those steps, I'm going to go through them a little bit faster than we did in the first half of the chapter. These are inverses, so they cancel. and I get 3x equals 69. My variable is being multiplied by 3, so I need to divide by 3. And I get x equals 69 divided by 3 is 23. And that would be my answer. Everything after the black part starts is stuff that we all did in the first half of the chapter, so you should know that already. If you don't, you're a little behind, you're going to have to catch up. Okay? Next example, word problem. An 8-ounce can of orange juice contains about 97 milligrams of vitamin C. About how many milligrams of vitamin C are there in a 12-ounce can of orange juice? Now, if we go back to the other problems for a second, one of the things that you notice, and this one especially, there's 4 pieces to the problem. The 5, the 9, the 15, and the x. There's 3 things that we know and 1 thing that's missing. That's how most of these proportion problems are going to be. So in this word problem, let's see if we can find 3 things that we know. 8 ounces, 97 milligrams, and 12 ounces. That's 3 things that we know. The other thing that we're trying to find, how many milligrams? Okay. Here is an important point. Back in section 6, when you're doing a unit conversion, the same unit has to be on the top and on the bottom so that they can cancel. That's in section 6. In section 7, when you're trying to solve a proportion, the units on top of the fractions have to be the same, and the units on the bottom have to be the same. They do not cancel. You're not trying to cancel anything out here. So let's set up this problem. Okay? I know an 8-ounce can has 97 milligrams. So I'm going to put 8 ounces over 97 milligrams. Okay? Those 2 things go together because they're in the same sentence. An 8-ounce can has 97 milligrams. That's a fact. So we write it down. The other thing that we know is 12 ounces. Well, in this type of problem, the units have to be the same on top all the time. So I have 8 ounces on top of one fraction, so I also need to have ounces on top of the other fraction. Okay? If I put ounces on the bottom of the right side of the equal sign, it wouldn't be right. That would not be the right way to set it up. I have ounces on top of the left, which means in this type of problem, ounces has to be on top on the right also. What am I trying to find? I'm trying to find how many milligrams. That makes sense because I have milligrams on the bottom of one fraction, so I need milligrams on the bottom of the other fraction. Here I've set up my proportion. Now I use cross products. So I multiply diagonally 8 times x, and I multiply diagonally the other way 12 times 97. Get my calculator. 12 times 97 is 1,164. I still have 8x over here. Divide both sides by 8, running out of room. Divide by 8, and it says 145.5. What was I trying to find? Was I trying to find ounces or was I trying to find milligrams? Well, the question says how many milligrams, so that I know that my answer has to have milligrams on it. Okay? Word problems like this that have units, you have to make sure you write down what it is that your answer means. Okay? That's the end of this section. Practice problems, page 127, numbers 19 through 35 odd.